Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Monday, December 23rd, 2024. I am Dave Biddle. I am joined by Dan Rubin. Man, that was the most enjoyable, best Ohio State win in 4 years since they, blew the doors off of Clemson in 2020 in the semifinals of the CFP. I guess it's something with teams that wear orange in the CFP. For Ohio State to go out there and just shellac Tennessee 42-17. It was just so cathartic. It was fun, and now they get a chance to play for it all. And by the way, Mr. Rubin, they're favored by 2.5 points over Oregon in the Rose Bowl.
Man, you could really do a psychological study on how things change, and how some that are maybe further away from the program than we are tend to vacillate based on the way the wind blows. But I digress wonderfully. It was spectacular. It was glorious. It was my guy, Matthew Curate. It wasn't just me, but that was what we kind of been asking for all season. Just
yes.
You get into the ring. It literally, I have a weird fascination with scoring, 3 and out and scoring. Statistically, I'd like to look it up. I bet you Ohio State has never lost when they've done that in the history of the program. That's hyperbolic, but since they've won so many times, it's not that crazy. What I'm talking about is touchdown, 3 and out, touchdown. Now, thank you to Dude for grabbing Will's face mask and allowing that to get rolling. I don't think it had any outcome on the game in terms of the result, but in terms of the glory of the beginning we are referring to, boy, that was awesome. I mean, I'm not going to be able to say anything here that's new. I don't think. I think it's pretty obvious when you have Shaq throw it into the post. We've talked about that. Much like Shaq, Jeremiah Smith gets no calls. And by the way, this has been said, and I'm not trying to be sour grapes guy. This could have been a lot worse. Jeremiah Smith was interfered with on that interception. I think refs just get so fascinated watching him, they forget to call penalties. One of the most famous clips of the year is his one-handed catch, which wasn't called when the guy is holding onto his left arm with 2 hands. I can't remember. That was early in the season. And then
that might have been the opener, or maybe that was Western Michigan. It was one of the two.
And then the roughing the passer penalty on Kenyatta Jackson.
Yep.
That's not a penalty. What happened was Nico Iamaleava weighs about 190 pounds, and he jumped in the air. That was just physics. There was nothing he could do there, and that ball was intercepted. So it could have been a lot worse. It reminded me of a Cowboys Super Bowl against the Bills, where it was 56-17, or 52-17. It should have been 59-10 because the refs screwed it up. But
did Don Beebe also screw that up?
Yes.
Yes.
Frank Reich was over the he was over the line of scrimmage when he threw a touchdown pass, but still it all worked out all right. It was nice to see, and I think I can speak for probably a lot of nutters out there when look, Ohio State is a national brand. You cannot leave your house or turn on your television or listen to a radio podcast, whatever technological advance, after a game and not hear people talk about it. And the last 3 weeks have been rough. I mean, Donovan Jackson was quoted as saying, we've been dragged through the mud, left for dead kind of stuff. So it is nice now to be able to turn on my television and turn on my radio and watch what we learned live and enjoy the dulcet tones of Dave Biddle talking about a victory and really get everyone off Ryan Day's case. I want to say this too. We've come on here a lot of times this year and said, I don't know, Ohio State looked like a very well-coached team on Saturday night. They were crisp.
They sure did.
They were prepared. They were aggressive. They were decisive. There was even less Davison, only one episode of Davison Igbinosun dancing and the ridiculous stuff. They were there to whip tail. And there's a lot of funny. Hard.
Sonny about killed a guy. I mean, Sonny or Cody
they
Simon
cracked the dude's helmet.
half. So that hit Sonny Styles put on that wide receiver. I can't believe that kid got up.
Yep. It
My
was just
God, they came to hit.
And we've come on here, though, and talked about how, hey, the offensive line didn't look ready, or, hey, these guys – this Ohio State outfit looked last night as well coached as any team I've seen play this year. And I don't think I'm breaking news here. That team that took the field, that's the best performance any football team has had in college football this year. I don't think anyone would argue with that. There is no Joe Burrow juggernaut hanging out there with a ridiculous quarterback. I'm now convinced if you don't have a quarterback that can really light us up, I think you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, and that's
I don't
want them against Oregon. And I'm going to be doing videos for 24/7 today. A little heads up, because they're then going off. They're going to be off work, so they're getting all of their videos ready for, the Ohio State-Oregon game. So I'm going to be on with Matt from the Oregon site, and we're going to be doing 24/7 videos. And I know they're going to ask me keys to victory. I know on defense, what I'll definitely say is you can't have a repeat of what happened the first time. You got to get pressure on Gabriel, and you got to limit big plays. You got to make him uncomfortable. He was so comfortable. I kept using the joke that he looked like he was back just, throwing the football back at his home state of Hawaii with his buddies on the beach. He was just laid back and comfortable. You got to pressure Gabriel. You got to limit big plays, and I'm pretty confident Ohio State can win this game, especially, Dan, with what we saw out of this offensive line. I was hoping for a stalemate. I did not expect Luke Montgomery and the boys to get the best of this Tennessee defensive line. I don't know what happened. I don't know what took 13 games for Luke Montgomery to play, but I do know that I loved what I saw Saturday night from that offensive line. Kudos to them, and Justin Frye's been getting a lot of heat. Kudos to him. Kudos to Chip Kelly and everybody that had a part of that offensive line that played really well.
Even guys who hadn't been playing well played pretty well. I also wonder, there's just some other things that haven't been discussed about the offense. I wonder if they just weren't fresh. They just had fresher legs. 3 weeks off and 3 weeks in the lab, that tends to go pretty well. A lot of people have talked about the Georgia game they lost on the Marvin Harrison hit and the field goal, et cetera, but that was the best game plan I thought Day ever had. And, whoever came up with this one, it's in that level of greatness. And it was a similar time off. I wonder if they just had fresh. There was a combination of a lot of factors, just like, and I hate to go back to this, but, we try and reverse engineer things here. And I think we're football geeks and we try and figure out why things happened. Everything makes sense if you just take out the Michigan game. I can't explain that. I've seen people, even pundits who are experts, they can't explain it. So I'm not going to attempt to do that anymore. Because even like what I just said about the mobile quarterback, their quarterback isn't very mobile. So I don't want to compare them to that. But it's still, I can't. I'm just going to have to put that in the isolated category. And I'll tell you this. You know who should have done that as well? All the fans who drove up from Tennessee thinking that they were going to get the same team that played in that game. This is just the national education for everyone else over the last 3 weeks on how much that game means to Ohio State and means to everybody. And you're getting a lot of people now saying you can't put this much emphasis on it and stuff. They've lost 4 in a row. This is not a normal situation. It's extreme. It's 4 in a row.
As we keep saying, it'd be one thing if you're talking about another good Michigan team, not a 6-5 Michigan team that you're favored by 21, and even playing the worst offensive game plan that we've ever seen with no adjustments. They still should have won the game if their field goal kicker didn't bite the dust. But still, that was on the coaches 100%. Yeah, it's mind-boggling that they went in and just decided that we're going to try and beat Michigan at their game. We're going to play man ball. We're going to line up there. We have to win the rushing battle. And then they turn around, they show their capabilities against Tennessee. But I'm with you, man. I'm done trying to explain. There's no way to explain it. There's no reason to dwell on it at this point because that was just pure elation Saturday night. I mean, if you're a Buckeye fan, how often were you just standing up, yelling, doing whatever you do to celebrate Buckeye greatness? I mean, there was 15 different times in that game where I'm sure every Buckeye fan was just losing their stuff. It reminded me obviously mostly of the Clemson game in 2020. No doubt about that, for a variety of reasons. But there were times it reminded me, I know it wasn't 59-0. It reminded me of that Wisconsin game, that Big Ten championship game 2014, where it was just like, it was just an avalanche of, I can't believe this is happening. Everything that happened with the offense in that game. And then all of a sudden, oh, by the way, how about we strip Melvin Gordon and get a defensive touchdown just to cap it off at the end of the first half? I remember Luke Fickell. You don't have to be a good lip reader, although I'm a pretty good lip reader. I remember Luke Fickell going, no effing way, but he didn't say effing, and he said it twice. He was on the sidelines, and Luke Fickell was so happy. He's like, no effing way. So it's just, I couldn't wait to rewatch the game. It's just, it's been too long since I was like itching to rewatch the game. Pretty much probably since Clemson 4 years ago.
It was similar in the Wisconsin game in that, if you remember, Dave, that was like Cardale's. We didn't know what was going to happen, and going into that game, you remember they were behind, I think, Texas A&M and Baylor. Is that right? Or TCU maybe? The two
Baylor and TCU.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the similar situation in that the national people were kind of questioning Ohio State all at once.
Right.
And then they came out and played like that. It's just very interesting how all of the matchups, I heard about and read about with Tennessee, that felt like the Iowa game to me more than anything else. In terms of, they came in with a highly touted running back. I've never really worried, I'll be honest with you, about teams that come to play Ohio State that are completely running back focused. There was a Melvin Gordon game. You mentioned that name. It jars my memory from years ago where he was averaging like 200 yards a game, came here and got like 10.
Oh, we've seen it time and time again. We used to say that the Ohio State is where running backs Heisman campaign goes to die, and including Larry Johnson's son when he was at Penn State. Mm-hmm. He came here. Penn State fans were like, "What was that back like in 2002?" When was he really good running back for Penn State? Anyway, he came here. Buckeyes pretty much shut him down. He didn't play terrible, but there's been so many times. Amos Zaraway. We can go on and on and on about running back.
Amos.
Oh yeah, he was no longer famous after the Silver Bullets got done with him. But you're right. I mean, Iowa's running back. He had a late touchdown to get Caleb Johnson to make his stats look okay. Other than that, the Buckeyes just destroyed him. Now, Samson did get hurt, and only had 2 carries. But do we think he was really going to go off? I don't.
Well, Caleb Johnson is regarded as a better NFL prospect than Samson, and I thought we handled him beautifully.
Oh, yeah.
So that didn't really – I mean, honestly, from about – there was one of the first 2 drives of Tennessee, it was like, oh, wow, we're going to kill them. This is not happening for them. I really do want to go back and give credit to Justin Fry, though, because we've taken plenty of shots. But if you literally stop and just go over the details of what's happened to the offensive line, this is actually going to end up being, one of our points of, pride in how they've responded to this. Don't forget, Donovan Jackson is not a tackle. You know what I'm saying? And he's getting better. I saw someone who I trust say, dude, this guy's improving his draft stock because he's showing some real versatility here. Montgomery played well. They highlighted it. I mean, when Tegra blocks the right guy, the guy moves. The issue is blocking the right guy, and he blocked the right guy consistently. Got to give credit to this, across the board, man. It was one of those glorious kind of I will say this. There was, to say that the whole game was like the Wisconsin game, that's not accurate.
Right.
The interception in the end zone was so heavy. First of all, have we seen two? Can we stop seeing Hall of Fame level interceptions in the end zone? Igbinosun, that guy thought he was Davison Igbinosun for a minute. That was and then 21-10. I said coming out of halftime, this is the most important drive for this defense in how long? A decade. And boy, the second half was almost as glorious as the first. If you go back and watch it, Just really, really good, smart football. You can make an argument there were a lot of plays of the game. The one that really sticks out to me is the third down where they tried kind of like a sprint option pass, and Lathan Ransom just smoked the dude behind the line of scrimmage. If it's third and pass and you try like a screen and get smoked, you're done. You're out of options at that point. So
lost like 6 yards too. I mean, even if he lost one, that would have been a hell of a play. You're right. I love those plays. That was an Antoine Winfield type play. Where it's just like if you're watching on TV, you're like, that was a blur coming in. What the hell just happened there? And then you knew it was Antoine Winfield. That was like. Now with this Ohio State team, you're like, is this Caleb Downs or was that Lathan Ransom?
Right.
Which one was it? And it was Lathan. You're right. That was a great play. And man, things can change. So with a little play, things can change so much in a football game. You referenced the face mask early, which was huge. And then Ohio State's up 14-0. And they have all the momentum. They're just cruising. And you remember that play where it wasn't G. Scott Jr.'s fault. It was really a poorly designed play because why was he going to the boundary? But by the time he catches the ball, he's full speed and he's like going out of bounds and he loses yards. You remember that play? Yep. So he loses like 2 or 3 yards. And I'm thinking, that's the type of play in football. We see it all the time where like everything's cooking and you get like a false start. Everything's cooking and you get a holding penalty. All of a sudden you're behind the chains. Everything's cooking. All of a sudden you lose yards on a pass to your tight end. So it's 2nd and 12. And I'm thinking, man, if they can just get the first down here and keep going, this is going to be a good night. The next play, Travion Henderson, boom, touchdown. I'm like, This is insane. 21-0 Ohio State. And you're right. That's why it wasn't like Wisconsin in 2014 because the second quarter happened, even though that was the officials trying to keep Tennessee in the game, in my opinion. But then Ohio State came out the third quarter and just basically did what they did in the first quarter and absolutely dominated. Credit to the fans. Tennessee fans showed up. What's funny too, Dan, I saw a ton of Tennessee fans. I'm not joking. On 70 from Columbus to Dayton yesterday. So I had my radio show I do in 97.1 The Fan. And then on the way home from that, the show ends at 11. I was coming back to my house. It's only about a 10-minute drive. I was like, geez, there's 6 or 7 Tennessee cars that I saw on that little stretch of 70, right? And I'm thinking, that's a lot. And you knew they were Tennessee. It wasn't just Tennessee plates. They had Vols, like Vol fans and Tennessee stickers. All right. Then there was we had Christmas for my in-laws, my wife's side of the family in Beaver Creek, right? So and then I'm driving down to Dayton after that. I was driving like solo. I couldn't believe how many Tennessee fans I saw on 70. Now they all, when I would pass them, they looked like they were sad, but Tennessee fans did show up. But the idea that they were going to take over our stadium, get the hell out of here. And Ohio State fans, Ohio State fans came to rock, and I thought Ohio State did a good job with the stadium op. The horseshoe is a cathedral. It should look like it looked Saturday night. And credit to the Buckeye fans, credit to obviously the team itself, credit to what Ohio State did. That's horseshoe looked beautiful. And man, Herbstreit's out there trying to say there's like 40% Tennessee fans. Like, no, come on. Even using Centerville math, that's not 60-40. Come on, get out of here. It's like probably like 75-25 at the most. But still, Tennessee fans showed up, but Buckeye fans showed out, as somebody said. Was it on my radio show? I can't, but I love how somebody said that. Tennessee fans showed up, but Buckeye fans showed out.
It was kind of also a confluence of circumstances. Tennessee is drivable for the stadium. You know what I mean? There was definitely some angst. And I get that people that aren't experienced, they don't have any nut in them, don't grasp the whole Michigan game and can't understand the reticence. But that is really just people who don't know what's going on. There's two discussions to have here. Are we sane for caring that much? And then why do we care that much? They're two different discussions. I think the national people who were just so shocked about and just talk about the fans and how they're so tough and stuff just really don't know what the deal is. This is not like that game Michigan loss happened. We're like, oh, this is outlandish. This has been building, man. If you would have told 4 years ago, if you had told me all the things that had happened and said, yeah, but they're going to lose to Michigan every year, I'd be like, dude, the guy's going to need an armored car detail. That's not someone from Ohio State being crazy at this point. We've been crazy. Everyone else is just seeing it now and can't believe it. But those people who are around it aren't like shocked that a few people didn't go to the game. Here's another thing about College Game Day. They come to Ohio State 3 times a year. It's not that big of a deal, okay? Going to be seen on College Game Day with a sign at Boise State is different than at Ohio State. No offense, Boise State.
Especially when you got 2/3 of the panel that Ohio State fans do not like at all. Desmond Howard and Kirk Herbstreit. Like Ohio State fans have no time for that.
I know, but some people, Dave, like to go down there because when game day comes, it's a big deal, and you're going down there. It's like a monument, or you're going to a museum.
It used to be. Ohio State fans don't care anymore.
That. We don't care.
Yeah.
Okay. They come 3 times a year. Also, it was freezing cold at like 6 a.m. The game wasn't until 8 p.m. That's a long time to tailgate. I'm sorry, even if you're a Buckeyes fan. This is a special occasion for Tennessee, man. This was their Christmas. I don't know how else to say this. And then you have the fact that, yes, if 10 fans went to the Michigan game, 8 probably went to this one. I get. There's 2 guys who sat up in C deck. I know that were super cold that didn't go back. And then you have the fact that it's a playoff game. So there were more tickets available because it's a playoff game. It was not a home game, according to the college football way they disperse the tickets. And then you have look, man, Tennessee thought they were getting the team that played Michigan. I would love to get and there's many videos of them before the game. The video you want to see after the game is Eddie George on Instagram. And he knows Eddie George lives in Tennessee. He's a coach down there. And he has a little rocky top. And he says, welcome to Nayland North. Sips a little Tennessee whiskey, chuckles, and you move on. So that was my favorite. I sent it out to my family. Eddie's is my favorite troll. And there's no word spoken. So it's tremendous. But I think the national education on the game and everyone's saying, you know what, there are millions of pundits out there like, you know what Ohio State needs to do? They need to just treat the game like any other game. That is the most ridiculous statement I have ever heard. No one who ever has had anything to do with the game would ever say that.
John Cooper did. Now, how did that go over with Ohio State?
Come on, man. That's not realistic.
That's the thing.
It's religion.
People don't know what they're talking about, man. It's like when people say, well, yeah, I mean, it's just another game. John Cooper actually said that early in his career and just got smoked by Ohio State fans, and rightfully so. All right, let's get into this. All right, before we really get into it, I assume you heard what Herbstreit said as the clock was winding down. Talking about Ohio State, he can't help himself. Instead of sitting there and either saying nothing, not that you're going to say nothing, but saying nothing about Ohio State fans, or saying, what a great job, Ohio State fans showed up tonight, what a great job by this team, instead of saying something positive about Ohio State or ripping on Tennessee. If that was Ohio State losing 42-17, you know what he would have been saying. How about, say, Tennessee wasn't ready for prime time? How about Ohio State? It doesn't even reflect how much Ohio State dominated this game. Instead, Dan Rubin, instead of those talking points or anything else, he could have talked about the Golden Globes if he wanted to. I don't care. He decided to take shots at Ohio State fans. Decided to say things like, well, heaven forbid if they lose. And he wasn't being sarcastic.
He said he thought they want to have Ryan Day fight.
Funny. He goes, heaven forbid they lose to Oregon, or these lunatic fans are going to want Ryan Day fired again. He can't help himself. And you and I know exactly what's up here. This is not him trying to be unbiased. Because I heard people say, well, how come he can't be more like Desmond Howard? Like, no, you don't want to be on either one of those spectrums. You don't want to be a clown like Desmond Howard, and you don't want to be a turncoat like Kirk Herbstreit. I always say you want to be more like a Clark Kellogg. You want to be more like a Chris Spielman, where you can call a spade, but people know exactly where your heart lies when it comes to the Buckeyes. Anyway, Herbstreit cannot control himself, and it's because Ohio State fans have no time for him. So the clock's winding down, and he decides to take shots at Ohio State fans. 3 weeks after, he said they probably shouldn't even have a home game, or they shouldn't want a home game because the crowd's going to turn on them. They're going to start booing. There was no reason for him to say that. All right, I didn't even mean to say all of that. Where do you come down on this?
On Herbie?
Yeah, just Herbie. Do you agree? I mean, just look at the chat. This is one thing. There's not really much. I haven't heard much pushback. Half the list callers, we had to eventually say, let's just talk about other stuff. Half the callers on my radio show yesterday wanted to talk about Herbstreit being a bleep bag. I'm serious. And there was not one person that was like, you know what, let's give him a break here and everything. Not one. I'm like, this is like very few times there's like 100% Ohio State fans are like, yep, we agree on that.
I do like his dog. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, we like the dog. Nothing against the dog.
Love the dogs.
Love the dogs.
Let's keep some context here too, though. Keep in mind, Kirk Herbstreit lives in Nashville, Tennessee.
Used to. Now he lives in Northern Kentucky, right?
I don't even know that.
His son went to St. X.
St. X. Did they move?
He lives in Cincinnati, but he lives in Northern Kentucky.
Well, that's
he even lies about that.
A lot of the well-heeled Cincinnatians live in. A lot of the Bengals live over there in Northern Kentucky.
Oh yeah, tax reasons in the Commonwealth. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So and then his son now goes to Michigan. So for that game, as a dad, I don't know how you even have been there. You know, he lives in. So I understand. I mean, also, our fans, as you well know, Dave, have a very good understanding of how to use the Twitter and the X.
I've taught them well.
Yeah, and he is just one of those media guys that, and it's his choice, he responds to it. He gets engaged in it. It bothers him. I would say just turn off your mentions. Listen, if Heather Dinich can have an X, you can have an X. What do you think she gets on there? Think about the combination of the her mentions have got to be the worst ever.
Really?
Heather Dinich, first of all, she's talking about something that everyone disagrees on when she says something negative about your team, and she's a female in the sports world, and
that will
the mouth breathers.
Some guys, although do you feel like that's dissipated since you and I were like, let's say, compared to when we were newspaper guys, so like 900 years ago, wasn't that long?
Yes,
it's dissipated a lot. We're like, now women have a lot more, and rightfully damn so. Women have a lot more. Now I'm still telling my daughters, do not go into sports journalism. No, do something more lucrative. But seriously, like it does feel like women in sports media have a lot more. I hear what you're saying, though. I hear what you're saying.
But Twitter is not for the Twitter is for the unhinged.
That's
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're getting the lowest common denominator of stuff, and so when a female's involved, you're going to get some gross stuff in there. That was a major digression. I shouldn't even have done that one.
Mina Kimes has talked about that. I love Mina Kimes. She knows.
I would just shut off your mentions.
There are some guys that'll be like, "Oh, if a woman's talking football, I don't want to hear it." I know. I'm not naive. That still exists. It just exists a lot less, I think. I hope.
I know I mean, Dave, you've told the story on here. I'd have to. It was long enough ago that I'd have to actually get out my calculator or my abacus. But there was a time when Mr. Bucknuts Sunday Bucket and Kirk's father used to read it, and was a captain of the team, and Gem City natives like we are, and currently, and his dad was bummed out enough that he reached out to Mr. Bucknuts, and so we eventually had I said, let's just have dinner with him or lunch with him. There's like, oh, he won't do that. Well, he did it. And then he drove up here and did the podcast with us live from our downtown studio.
You and I were, for people to understand, that was a small room we were in. If it was just me and you, it was kind of crowded. We had that little studio it was really a makeshift studio. The equipment was good. So it was me, you, and Herbie. Herbie was like from like where I am now to like my ring light, which is like right here. It was crazy. And he admitted to us that he's sensitive and he reads everything. And he admitted, I know I shouldn't be so insensitive, but I want people to like me. And I thought that was okay. You're being honest. Okay. You're letting your guard down. I like that. But that's where all this stems from, man. He does, as we're articulating, he does read it. and he lets it get to him. And
I don't understand that.
A couple Ohio State fans that are taking shots at him. He feels like he's got to take shots at every Ohio State fan. And I tell you what, man, there's no way. He flat out lied when he said he left Columbus because his family was getting harassed. Can I see the police report? So hopefully if his family was getting harassed, he filed a police report, right? There's no way his family was getting harassed in Upper Arlington. Give me a break. Or when they went out in Columbus, not one corroborating report on that from anybody else. It's just Kirk lying about why he left Columbus. There's other reasons he left Columbus. So he lies. He takes unfair shots at Ohio State fans. I've even tried to kind of defend him here and there or just say nothing. I'm done with that. I'm done with him.
Listen, once this kid committed to Michigan, the die was cast, I think, in that respect. So.
And here's the thing. He's letting them use his son as a pawn. You can say, well, how are you going to turn down Michigan? Say what you want. If they're offering you a scholarship, how are you going to turn that down? Listen, I've always said this because people would ask me even when we were like in grade school, like you said, if you ever have kids, would you let them go to Michigan? Like, what if they were on scholarship? And I'm like, if you're good enough, all jokes aside about Michigan, if you're good enough to get a scholarship at Michigan, you're telling me nobody in the MAC offered you a scholarship? You're telling me even D2 schools didn't offer you a scholarship? So Ohio Dominican didn't offer you, Ashland didn't offer you, Findlay didn't offer you. Nobody in the MAC offered you. Nobody else in the entire country offered you, but Michigan did. Do you think you're good enough to go to Michigan? Or do you think they're using you as a pawn? And Herbstreit let it happen.
Well, also, I mean, it's not like he's the number one quarterback in their class. We've heard about the number one quarterback in their class. It's Bryce Underwood from Detroit. So he's not going there to play football.
You think Ohio State's coaches have texted Herbstreit to congratulate him yet on his son?
Yeah, that was a little weird. That was a little weird that he said that. I know what you're talking about. He talked about how he was at the senior tackle and no one congratulated him. I think keep this in mind. Just imagine if you were a coach at Ohio State and you didn't really know Kirk Herbstreit all that well, except knew what you saw on TV and what you heard and stuff. You knew his kid committed to Michigan, and all of a sudden he's there for like the most, special emotional night of the year. I don't think that would be the top of my list, would be go over to make sure he felt good about his son going to Michigan. That doesn't really jibe for me.
When did they lift because Jim Tressel told Mr. Bucknuts that he banned Kirk Herbstreit from the WAC. When did that get lifted? Was that the Luke Fickell year? Was that Urban? Whoever lifted that, Herbstreit should still be banned from the WAC.
He's not. I don't think he's in there. He doesn't need to be in there too much anyway. And look, give the guy credit, man. He's gotten to where he wanted to be. I mean, he's loaded. He's the face of college football in a lot of ways.
He could lose $10 million and he wouldn't even blink. He's got money. He already was loaded. Then he did put the Amazon. Listen, credit to him. He's super successful. This is why I wish he was a better ambassador for Ohio State. I don't want him to be Desmond Howard. I can't say this enough. You can be Clark Kellogg. Okay. Now, Chris Spielman's not in media anymore. He happens to be helping the Lions become like one of the best franchises in the NFL, which we never saw coming. I choose to give Chris Spielman a lot of credit for that. When Spielman was in the media, what was he like? He shot it straight. He said, okay, this guy deserves to be fired. He would say like some serious things about Ohio State, but nobody ever questioned his Buckeye-ish or what's the word I'm looking for? His Buckeye-ness. Nobody ever did.
Allegiance.
You can be Chris Spielman. You can be Clark Kellogg. You don't have to be a clown like Desmond Howard, and you don't have to be a turncoat like Kirk Herbstreit.
But look, we've talked about it for a few minutes. He's a lightning rod. You know what I mean? He's out there. They're out there so often. And this goes back to one of my original points on Tennessee. It's not a big deal for Ohio State to have game day come there. Okay. I get that you got on television and you're orange. That didn't do anything. I don't know one Ohio, and I have a decent amount of contact with them. I don't know one Ohio State person who said anything about the Tennessee fans. They could have cared less. Okay. The only ones who maybe would have cared a little bit is the ones who had been there if Tennessee would have started to win and that never materialized for 1 second. So the impact that people think that had on everyone is minimal. The real impact it had is on the super hungover people that had to drive home back to Tennessee, knowing they got sold a bill of goods by the media, thinking they had to come up here and actually had a chance against a much better team.
I saw a lot of them on I-70.
Yeah.
I don't realize, because I guess a lot of them were taking 70 and then 675. I saw a lot of them on 675 as well. And then we're going 75. Like, why wouldn't you just go on 71 south from Columbus? But what they must have had a reason. Anyway, Oregon game. Buckeyes favored by 2.5. I kind of wish Ohio State was an underdog, but kind of like the Tennessee game where Ohio State was favored by 7. They almost had that underdog feel to them. I think they're going to take that with them to Pasadena. I like Ohio State's chances. Now, I'm not saying that I like Ohio State's chances. Like, I give them like an 80% chance of winning, but, they're favored. The computers, the ESPN Football Power Index gives Ohio State about a 54% chance of winning. I like a little tick higher than that. I'm at about a 6 out of 10. I think we're in for a hell of a good game, but I think the Buckeyes are going to take care of business and get to the semifinals. What do you think?
This would be the toughest team they could play, I think. So I do really think this is 1 versus 2 in my personal rankings. I don't know if that means the winner of the game is going to win the title. It certainly feels like like I've said, we are in uncharted waters in terms of attrition and depth. Keep this in mind. This is to be the first of 3 more games against a big-time team to win. So this is far, far from over.
Oh, yeah.
Look, Oregon scares me. When we went into that game last time, Dave, we were really touting our secondary as being the strength of the team and best secondary since Mike Dawson crew, et cetera. And then they got lit up. The corners got lit up. Denzel Burke had one of those nights that I'm sure he wished to forget. Davis and Igbinosun made a few plays, but also showed how handsy he can be with others. And that didn't go well. So that is what I need to see. And look, Dylan Gabriel, like we said, by the end of the game, that was 7-on-7 for him. And that's very concerning. If they cannot get to the quarterback, this won't go well. They've had some injuries. I know Tez Johnson has been nicked up a little bit. I don't know what his status for the game was, and he really hurt them. But Evan Stewart really hurt them as well. The running back, is it Jordan James, I believe his name is? He really hurt them as well. So, to me, it's a pick 'em. It's a straight pick 'em.
It's so much fun, man. I love that it's New Year's Day, Rose Bowl.
Oh, and for me, the Rose Bowl is my favorite football venue besides the Shoe. I mean,
your Cowboy, you had a Cowboys.
My favorite game, the favorite pro game ever. When they
Cowboys winning the Super Bowl. Yeah, man. And it's one of those things where the Rose Bowl was still cool the last few years, but not nearly as cool as it used to be. Because it kind of became a relic. Didn't really mean anything. This is like the best of both worlds, though. You get the Rose Bowl, but it actually means a hell of a lot. It's the quarterfinal of the CFP, but it's still on New Year's Day, 5:00. And there's some things that get played up that are probably cheesier than they are great, but playing up the sun setting on the San Gabriel Mountains at the end of the third quarter is legit. That is one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen in person.
On grass.
Oh, it's freaking great. And it really is
a shrine of football.
It really
is gorgeous. Another thing is this is what I like about it. No weather.
Right. We don't have to worry about that anymore. We're either playing in Pasadena or indoors now.
And so what that should mean is pure talent perspective. Rain is the great equalizer. I've covered a state championship game where I watch a team that was not as good as the other team win simply because it rained. Rain means you can pass the ball. Excuse me. The Rose Bowl is a great place to throw the football. It has always been a classic place to throw the football.
Ask Dwayne Haskins.
Ask Troy Aikman. Ask any quarterback who's played during a big game. They will tell you.
Even Terrell Pryor threw it pretty well against Chip Kelly in Oregon. You think if we get Chip Kelly this week, I should ask him, hey, man, 15 years ago, what do you think about that Jim Tressel out coaching you? No, I'm not going to do that. Tressel came out there.
Sanchez took us to the cleaners out there. I don't know if that was at the Rose Bowl.
Tressel came out there with Terrell Pryor and came out with 4 wides when everybody thought he was just going to try to run the ball. And Oregon was like, what in the heck? It was like when he came in against Michigan in 2006, which wasn't as big of a surprise because Troy Smith was something called the eventual Heisman winner. When they came out against Michigan, like just with 5 wide receivers in that 1 versus 2 game, and like because they had like Gonzalez, Hartline, Robisky, Roy Hall, and Michigan was like, "Are you serious? They're coming out 5 wide." Yep, and they threw it like all over the lot. Then they ran it with Beanie and Pittman. Okay,
I will say this, Dave.
Little trip down memory lane there, my friends.
I do think that emotionally, they're over their biggest hurdle.
Yes.
They proved to themselves what they were again. Maybe they didn't need to do that. Maybe that was just for us. But anyone who had any doubts about what type of effort they were going to get out of the team or what type of mental blockage there was, that should be answered. And if I look at the other teams, I think Oregon's the best. We match up great with the rest of them. I really don't want to get ahead of myself, but Quinn Ewers, man, I would love to play against Quinn Ewers. Quarterbacks that don't move and don't weigh more than 225 pounds, they're in trouble, bro. Iamaleava impressed the blank out of me and how tough he was.
He was tough.
But let me tell you something. Dude is sitting in the hot tub.
Yep.
He felt that. And
when you get your helmet cracked in half, boy,
he has a nice future.
Tell you
and
what.
He has real nice wiggle for a 6'6" guy in space. But they need to hit Dillon Gabriel consistently. And I'm not talking about 1 or 2 times. It can't be a thing where Dillon Gabriel's back 1, 2, 3, run, screen, that we'll lose. We'll lose. They've proven that. So, I mean, it all lines up, redemption and all that good stuff. You get to face one of the 2 teams that beat you. I'm very optimistic because I think what I'm hoping is going to happen is everyone is very it drives me crazy when people talk about the money because they never differentiate the fact that we really didn't pay that many transfers. That money was really went to guys coming back, and people talk about the money like we went to studs for you and just bought all the good dudes. We just happened to get the 4 best transfers. You know what I'm saying? We just spent our money correctly. Caleb Downs and Seth McLaughlin and guys transfer here and do well. Josh Simmons transfer here is going to be a first-round draft pick. Seth won the Remington. Caleb Downs, Will Howard. Speaking of which, and I said this, we talked about how this time is going to create household names and it's going to create NFL players. Here's the household name, Jeremiah Smith. My mom called me to talk about Jeremiah Smith and how cute he was, and the picture of him with my wife at the foundation.
How cute.
And I'm serious. That's when people start talking about you off the field and start asking about what you're like and stuff like that. And listen, there's a reason Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan make so much money. The women got involved. They bought all the gear. That's 50% more of the population to buy your stuff. Jeremiah Smith is the one who came out of the first round with everyone like, oh my God, who is that? The people who had not seen him before. Okay. But guess who's improving their NFL stock? You're telling me if Will Howard plays like that 3 more times, he's not going in the 2nd or 3rd round of the draft? He will. Trust me.
At that size, yep.
JT Tuimoloau made some money. Lathan Ransom made some money. Keep this in mind. This is an audition. This is an audition for these guys every time they play. Okay. And I said, like, no one knew who Steph Curry was before that NCAA tournament. By the end of it, there's people wearing his high school jersey to parties. You know what I'm saying? That's going to happen to somebody. I hope it's us. You got 3 more marquee games in front of everybody. And, it's a pyramid scheme, man. The teams drop off. So our guys are not just playing for pride or anger over the mission. They're playing to secure their future lifestyle. These are auditions for them to play professional football. Every single guy that comes to Ohio State, there's a reason when they announce, they say 3 to 4 years. They're not going to be an accountant in 3 years. They're not going to take over their dad's business. They're going to the NFL. And that is what this is. Even the NFL guys are going to get fooled, man. I'm telling you. These playoffs are going to screw up some drafts from people. I hope it's not our guys, but guys inflate themselves. It's like the NCAA tournament. Guys inflate themselves. You think they're better than they are, and then so we have plenty to play for. The idea that there was like the season was over, that is garbage. These guys are playing for their livelihood. Okay, they're playing for their future. So I have no worries about the motivation, especially you watch this fact that Ohio State's a senior-laden veteran team, same way Michigan benefited from that. I'm hoping we're going to start to see that now. I think you saw that out of the Jack Sawyers of the world. I mean, before the game, Jack Sawyer was up there running his mouth to the Tennessee people. There was no shrinking violets. Maybe the fans were nervous, including me. They came out and kicked tail. So as long as they play like that,
they're the best team in the nation if they play like – it's not like, if they play like they have a chance of beating Oregon. No, if they play like that, they will beat Oregon.
Oregon knows that too.
Yeah, they do, because Ohio State played maybe at C game at Autzen at night, raucous environment. Still should have won the game, lost by 1. So
Will Howard played well, though.
I play they have to pressure Gabriel, which they did not do, and limit the big plays. And I just love where this team is at now, because I felt like, and we talked about this a lot on the shows the last couple of weeks, if they can get past Tennessee, all of a sudden Ohio State's going to be dangerous. Okay, and I was talking about beating Tennessee by 3 points or whatever it would be.
We all predicted
them to dominate. Yeah, we all were right around 4 points. I picked them to win by 4. I think almost all of us picked them to win by 4. Backs, I think, I had them winning by 14.
I had 23-21. But
you had
everyone had 23-20, 24-20, 24-21.
I had 24-20. So, okay, so I remember thinking, and we talked about this on the show, if they can get past Tennessee, man, they're going to be dangerous. We know they're talented. Then they can get some confidence going. But, man, they didn't just get past Tennessee. They just blew the doors off of them. When it's 42-17 and it doesn't even do it justice, how much you blew them out, getting up 21-0. Then they're like, uh-oh. Calls went their way, some really shady calls. Now it's 21-10. Here we go again. And then, boom, they come out and dominate the third quarter again. We're absolutely just the dominant team on the field. They've got to be brimming with confidence and kind of feel like they're playing with house money to a certain extent. You add that with their talent, it just makes them super dangerous. Does it mean they're definitely going to beat Oregon and win this thing? No, but I love their chances, man. I love it.
So Tennessee, for some reason, was not one of the teams I saw a ton of this year. I definitely went back and looked at a lot before the game. Are they good?
I don't think they're that good. Their schedule was weak, man. And they they lost to a bad Arkansas team. Okay, they beat Alabama, but again, they beat 9-3 Alabama. They didn't beat Saban, Alabama.
Exactly. They didn't beat Saban.
They lost to Georgia by 2 touchdowns, respectable, but they got up 10-0 early, and then Georgia just dominated them from that point. So losing to Georgia by 14, it was by 14. Losing to Georgia by 14 at Georgia, that's nothing. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's not like you got blown out, but Georgia completely dominated after the first quarter. And then they didn't play anybody else good in the SEC, Dan. Mm-hmm. They didn't play Ole Miss. They didn't play South Carolina. They didn't play Texas. They didn't play Texas A&M. Not that A&M was great. Even some of the schools that were okay, that were good, that they didn't play, like Missouri, LSU. Not that LSU was good. But, again, they had a weak SEC slate. They barely got past Kentucky. Is Tennessee good? I'll say they're good, but top 15 good, not top 10.
Okay, I'll ask you this. Who's better, Tennessee or Indiana?
If those two teams played, I would probably pick Tennessee in a close one.
So would I. Neutral field? Under 3-point spread, though.
Oh, if it was at Neyland, I would pick Tennessee.
Of course.
Yeah, neutral field. Do you think they would be better off playing the game at Neyland Stadium, Dan?
Oh, good Lord.
Jeez. Still one of the dumbest things that I've ever heard in my life.
Now that is an all-time terrible
And there's no reason to do it. He just can't help himself. That was the selection show, and he had to take a shot at Ohio State fans. And it's just so obvious to me because he's just so thin-skinned. Anyway, all right. I got to get going here because we got a lot to do. By the way, guys, I meant to say this programming note. Ryan Day today at noon on Zoom. It'll be like the pandemic. We're getting Ryan Day on Zoom. That's because it's CFP mandated. So Ryan Day today at noon. We'll have full coverage of that. So curious what Ryan Day will say about Josh Fryer. I think Josh Fryer is okay. We've had some people ask about that. Was able to come back in the game. And it's good you get 11 days off. So Ryan Day today at noon. Keep it locked to Bucknuts for that. Merry Christmas, everyone. Happy holidays. And thanks to Dan. Thanks to all of you. Very large audience here. Appreciate that, guys. Hope everyone has a great rest of your day.